Good morning, everyone. Southeast Asia has been a bright spot for e-commerce, especially with slowing growth in China and advanced economies. And as we know in Indonesia, there's very few things we love more than online shopping. So James, let's start with one of the most important achievements of Lazada recently. You've just hit positive EBITDA in July. Do you see this as the start of a gradual turnaround, and what's the next milestone for you?
Yes. So we've been operating in Southeast Asia as one of the pioneers of e-commerce in the 6 ASEAN countries for the last more than 12 years. So it's definitely a big milestone for us because it also means we've been waiting for this moment for more than 12 years and continuous investment during this time. I think what's interesting right now is the whole e-commerce as a sector across Southeast Asia is gearing very close to net profitability. So net profitability means while some companies may continue to invest, while some companies will make the profit, as a whole will have the profitability. And I think this is a very important pivotal moment if you look at the industry level. To give you an example, Southeast Asia has one of the most consolidated e-commerce scene currently, which means large players hold a majority share of the market share. And it's not as vibrant when it comes to a lot of different startups, dot-coms, vertical players. And one of the key reasons is because there's no money to be made in e-commerce industry. But this is all about to change. Once we reach this industry net profitability, our view, and my view actually, is that this is going to create a next revolution, next digital revolution, where, yes, the competition will be fierce, but there'll be more investment coming into the industry. There'll be more players coming into the industry with startups, with different diversities, different solutions, different sectors. And it's going to create a very, very vibrant, where not only 2-3 players leading the way, but combined with so many different diversified players together investing and growing and creating the solution. So I actually think it's a very exciting time. And as one of the key players in the market, what we need to make sure that we do is how do we stay ahead of the game? How do we invest more into the future? How do we create a solid diversification for bigger and more vast competition to be in moving forward? So I think this is a very important time that this industry has been waiting for the last 12 years.
I'd actually like to pose that question to the audience as well. You can scan the QR code on the table or on the screen, but I'm curious for our guests, how do you see Indonesia's e-commerce landscape over the next few years? Do you see it still being dominated by a few big players as we see now? Or do you see that there's a chance for more smaller, maybe niche players to come up, as James is saying? And while we're waiting for those answers to come in, I wanted to ask you, already we're seeing a fair bit of competition. You have Temu, Amazon, TikTok Shopping, and Shopee. For Lazada, how are you looking to claw market share from your competitors, and what are the strategies that you're looking to take now?
Yeah, so it's a good question because competition definitely is more fierce than before, because 12 years ago, we were in many countries only one. Yeah. So the scene is very much different now. But I do think for us, differentiation is going to be one of the key question mark, and how we differentiate. So when we first, I've been with Lazada for 12 years, so one of the founding members. So when we first started, when no one really understands e-commerce, or there's no trust in the concept of e-commerce, there's no need to prioritize certain areas or certain categories. Let's grow as much as we can. We grow the supply, we grow the demand. We promote the e-commerce as an entirety. And now, with this current quite fierce competition with a lot of the different giants in the market as well, diversification is one of the key things that we need to do. And for Indonesia, and this diversification actually, as a group level, we need to, because we're a technology-backed company, we need to invest in certain areas of technology, but also it is very dependent on the market dynamics as well. So for here in Indonesia, one of the key ways we want to continue to invest and diversify is to have a much more stronger supply chain play. This means from an investment perspective, we'll continue to invest strongly into infrastructures, especially in logistics, both in warehousing, fulfillment, last mile delivery network, which is crucial to enable the supply chain. And not only that, we'll be looking to invest into different geographies around Indonesia. Actually, we have exciting news to share. I would like to take this opportunity to share today. We'll be launching, I think for the first time as an e-commerce to do this, we'll be launching next month Lazada Surabaya.
So a Lazada just tailored for Surabaya shoppers.
Absolutely. And that we started from investing into warehousing, delivery networks, and then we're launching our office next week. We have a separate app, separate homepage for the audiences from Surabaya to see much more strongly the demand that products and the services, the campaigns and the messaging that's tailored to the markets in the East Java. But this is one of many Lazadas that I want to create here in Indonesia. And this is backed by a strong supply chain play. Because actually, the retail ecosystem in North Sumatra or even Makassar is, I would not say it's Indonesia as a whole country is homogeneous. It's very diverse, and also because of a very complex supply chain, it has different pockets of retail ecosystem. And for us to continue our journey on not only expansion, but better serving our customers and SMEs, what better way to do that? To be able to further localize from a total country operation to a market-by-market operation.
You've been all across Southeast Asia. Do you see this as something unique to Indonesia, the need to localize and target maybe secondary cities outside of Jakarta?
So I think this is one of the key things that even outside of Indonesia, that we see this kind of opportunities. You look at the West Malaysia versus East Malaysia. You look at the markets of Ho Chi Minh, and then you look at the markets of Hanoi. You look at Manila and Cebu. Actually, Southeast Asia is continuing to develop, and that development and the disposable income, the people's desire for goods, actually it's developing not only in the capital cities, but it's developing throughout the countries. And as they do that, I do believe the opportunity will be there to be able to further localize and diversify into the supply chain. But for Indonesia, it is particularly the most important, and timing is right now because it's such a large country with phenomenal growth, and this growth is actually not only in Jakarta. Of course, Jakarta is growing as well, but we see this opportunity outside where actually in some of the outer cities, the consumers are underserved. The service level is poor. If you ship everything from Jakarta, the shipping fee is too expensive, and also you're not capturing the right localized demand, and the SMEs of those areas that makes up the retail ecosystem of those key cities are not benefiting from the vast boom and the growth of e-commerce sector. So I think for Indonesia, it's absolutely the most critical piece.
Mm-hmm. Other than Surabaya, do you have a few more target cities to launch this?
Yes, we'll be launching another Lazada by early next year, before Ramadan campaign start. But that one, I'll keep it a secret for now.
Okay. But Surabaya, that's for October.
Yes.
Okay, so if you have any shoppers from Surabaya here, you can do your 10/10 shopping from a special Lazada Surabaya page. Actually, I wanted to ask you about Indonesian consumption because whatever happens, consumption has always been resilient in Indonesia. But if you look under the hood post-pandemic, it's usually been driven by middle income, upper income spending. How do you navigate that kind of price war to target lower income segments? And what do you see driving your GMV?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, the way I look at it is, I believe that e-commerce in South Asia, also including Indonesia, has gone through phenomenal growth, but still under-penetrated. I'll share some figures. So right now in South Asia, let's say Indonesia, let's start with Indonesia. I think last year, the e-commerce industry for retail, so consumer commerce, we're looking at about 62 billion US dollar was about last year. It's still on a growing trend. And people ask me a lot, James, like, where's the ceiling? How long is it going to continue? Or, is it slowing down? Of course, it's slowed down because it went from nothing to this level in the last, 12, 13 years. But then if you compare to the penetration of online commerce to the percentage of the total commerce of consumer goods, it's still very low. In some categories, like, for example, groceries, less than 1%. In many of the consumer categories, we're looking at about 20%. But if you compare this figure to other countries which had a lot more mature e-commerce, let's say China, we're looking at some of the key categories more than 50%. Online groceries are double-digit already. Now, but everyone goes, oh, James, you can't compare it to China, right? So I would like to put this into perspective. The total Southeast Asia e-commerce last year was $140 billion US. Last year, South Korea e-commerce was $172 billion US, with merely just over 50 million population, reaching more than 10% of the GDP. So then you look at that, then absolutely is underpenetrated. US, with more than 1.3 trillion e-commerce industry, is still growing at almost 9% on an annual basis. China, even larger e-commerce industry, still continue to grow. So I think we're still not there yet, and even those mature e-commerce markets is still growing its penetrations and sales. So the opportunity is vast. It's a long-winded way to get back to your question. The key is, how do we enable to mirror a lot more of the total retail online is through different solutions. You talk about the price points. Actually, lower price point goods have been growing online quite strongly in the past few years, especially post-pandemic. But the question is why? Is it because e-commerce companies are focusing on lower price goods? I think that's not the answer. I think the answer is, actually, with the improvement in infrastructure and logistics, and if you look at especially the cost of logistics, now it enables lower price product to be sold online, which before it wasn't able to do that, right? So for example, if you ship something from Jakarta to, let's say, Medan, it will cost more than 60,000 rupiah on a parcel basis. And we believe, moving forward, very shortly, we can do that for about less than just over 10,000 rupiah. You can imagine what kind of product will be now unlocked or enabled because the cost and the barriers of those purchases have come down, right? And this we see everywhere. So I don't think I don't see it as when consumers buy something online, they buy different things. It's like, if I like this kind of apples, just because I buy from online, I buy different type of apples. It's not like that, right? So the key is still a lot of barriers to enable certain categories, certain price points, certain geographies. And as e-commerce industry matures and increases sophistication to provide solutions for them, those things get unlocked. And in the past, actually, you're right, only quite high price point were able to be sold because of the cost of doing the business.
I think that's an interesting question that we can also pose to the audience. We have this other question on the QR code asking what best describes your shopping habits. Do you tend to stick with one platform? And if you do go between different shopping platforms, do you do it based on affordability, product choice, customer service, or do you just prefer to go to the malls at the end of the day? And I think that would give us like some insight also on maybe how and why the market remains underpenetrated for a country that does love consumption and shopping. As you wait for those answers, I wanted to ask you, other online shopping platforms have also raised fees on their sellers. Is that a source of padding your margins as well?
Yes, absolutely. So actually, when we started the business, back in the days, there were no fees. It was, I still remember, it was 0% commission. And to the consumers, it's broadly free shipping. And a lot of the big players, including us, were subsidizing a lot of these transactions. I mean, I still remember the first year when we tried to onboard merchants onto the platform and try to explain you should sell online, a lot of the shop owners didn't have internet in their stores, didn't have computers in their stores, didn't have printers in their stores. So we also invested, I remember buying printers for the stores to, let's please work together, we'll buy your printer. So we've kind of continued to invest into it. Now, right now, the fees have gone up since then because it was 0, and of course, the fees have to go up. And we've seen we call it the take rate, have been increasing quite fast, actually, post-pandemic. It's a combination of different reasons behind this. But one of the key things is definitely our investment into the solutions, technology, infrastructure has not slowed down. So for a lot of these e-commerce, including us, looking into the future, for us to continue to make investment into the market, the fees have to come up. And we also would like the e-commerce industry as a whole to be profitable as well. So you look at China today, it's very, very fierce competition with not only the big players, but also many, many, many players. And yet, it's a vastly profitable industry. And I think that adds to the vibrancy. It attracts investors. It sharpens the quality. It sharpens the service. And it sharpens the solutions. And that's what's going to be the fuel that will continue to have e-commerce South Asia to be much more strongly grow moving into the future.
James, we have a few answers coming up on the survey. It seems like majority of people have a preferred platform and stick to that.
Absolutely.
Do you see that as an opportunity to build brand loyalty, or do you see that as a challenge that it will be harder to take customers from your competitors?
Oh, no, I think this is absolutely the right kind of situation in our evolution, right? So as I mentioned, South Korea, for example, actually 6, 7 years ago, it was exactly like this, where the big players had all the products online and consumers were purchasing from the big players. Actually, consumers at that time, you asked the question, would you shop from 5, 4 different e-commerce? They say, why? I go to this one and this one has everything that I need. But as what we know is, and this is not across globally, what we know is, as consumers increase their trust level and increase their confidence on purchasing online, they increase not only the categories that they buy, they increase the price points that they buy, they increase the frequency that they buy, and ultimately they increase the diversity of different platforms that they go to. And right now in South Asia, I believe we're in this quite consolidated, large player having a large share of the market, where moving forward, as the diversity becomes a lot more vibrant, and consumers become a lot more confident and also a bit used to purchasing online, this question definitely will see a different answer if we ask this question 5 years later.
Hopefully we can revisit this 5 years later, James. One of the big tactics that online shopping has used in Indonesia is shoppertainment, right? I don't see this as a big feature in Lazada's platform. Is that a deliberate choice, and why?
Yes, so shoppertainment, one of the things that is gaining a large popularity right now, not only in Indonesia, but in South Asia, is live stream-based live commerce.
Yeah.
Watching the live streams and the contents created by the creators or the shop owners, and then making the purchase. This is gaining a lot of popularity. It's a we call it's the guided sale, which means you are actually inspiring the demand and having person realize the demand. Right now, for Indonesia in particular, for Lazada, we are heavily focused on consumer trigger demand. So, which means, and that's where we want to have a diversification. We want to have different areas of our strength. And I believe at this moment, based on our current technology and the infrastructure we built, the best play for us is actually do a supply chain play. Having the products good quality, good price, closer to you, serve at the best service level, and to fulfill the triggering demand of the consumers is where I want to put the emphasis. There's no right or wrong answer to this. For example, I see very little entertainment factors in Amazon, for example. I see quite a lot of entertainment factors in Tmall, Taobao. So it's not a right or wrong answer to it, but right now we believe that supply chain-based play and better capturing the demand of the consumers with that service level is something that we can do best at in this market.
Earlier this year, there were reports that Lazada had to cut its workforce across Southeast Asia. Is downsizing still on the table for you if you see earnings continue to be pressured? And if so, what are the operations that you think could still be streamlined?
Yeah, this is we did we did a big transformation earlier this year, and it hit a lot of the news. Also, even the existing teams were quite concerned. Also, we got inferences and calls from our partners, suppliers, asking is everything okay, and all that stuff. Actually, we made the change not because we wanted to reduce the investment. We made the change because we wanted to actually move much faster. So we've been here for the last 12 years, and we've created, actually we started as a 6 Lazada across 6 ASEAN countries with different co-founders, but kind of linked by the few of the, we call it the HQ founding team. And my country at that time was Philippines that we started. And since then, at this current time and situation, e-commerce industry evolved so much, and we have to do much more stronger technology-oriented approach to our business, more infrastructure-oriented approach to our business. And because of that reason, we had to change the corporate structure so that we verticalized a lot of the key structures that we can have synergies across South Asia, and we further localized areas that we need to have further localization. Actually, we see one side of the coin, which is there has been a transformation. But we've also, since then, have expanded and also hired a lot of team members across all markets, but in a different area. So for us, it was a big transformation where we consciously made a decision. We need to further localize in some things. We need to further centralize certain things. It was not a cost-saving measure. It's a very, very small, I mean, at our size today, and we're very technology-driven, it's a very small size of that impacts our cost. So our investment continues to go on. Our recruitment continues to go on. Our team, and hence also launching, different geographies and offices as well. So our expansion is there, but the way we approach has changed, and we did that consciously to ensure that we can leverage strongly the synergies across having a large company as a total technology platform.
There's been a lot of talk about AI in the previous panel. Do you see that being part of your transformation in the next few years, or potentially also replacing staff when AI could do maybe customer service or other services better?
Yeah, it's actually a great question. The impact of AI, this is something that we talk about a lot. We also have different voices within our company. Different people have, different leaders have different opinions on this topic as well. So I'll share my personal opinion on this. So for me, AI feels like it's going to have a profound implication to the e-commerce industry in a way that it kind of feels like last time when we had a smart device or smartphones was introduced with an app ecosystem, that really changed a lot of things. Because back in the days, if you wanted to have a technology software companies, you need to have a lot of engineers. You need to invest in a lot of infrastructures. It was not a small company thing. But with the introduction of the smartphones, where a personal computer is being available to everyone, easy accessibility and app ecosystem created an ability for startups to compete with those who have large resources, those who have a deep technology expertise and long-time R&D. And a lot of the companies emerged from that. But not only a lot of companies emerged from that, it created a lot of different diversity of offerings, solutions, softwares, different companies. And that really changed the dynamics. The AI feels like that. It's that level of profound implication is the feeling that we have. So you think about it, one of the key things that we pride ourselves is our algorithm. Actually, algorithm is a form of AI. And this algorithm has been built over time with significant amount of data, significant amount of data scientists, R&D, and investment into perfecting the model. And very large companies have this algorithm, which is one of the key assets. Actually, I believe that in the future, with the support of the AI, startups or small companies are able to enjoy a very sophisticated algorithm capability. And that alone really increases the level of the playing field, right? It reduces the barrier of these companies be able to enter the market and to compete with the large companies. So yes, one way to look at it is AI will give increase in productivity, and that productivity would have implications to the workforce. I think that's one way to look at it. But if I look at the industry as a whole, I look at the other side of the coin, which is with this technology, I think there's going to be a lot more companies and service offerings and solutions that's coming to the market. The e-commerce that's so underpenetrated right now, I think it's going to, if not anything, expedite the growth and the penetration of this industry. It will make the industry go much, much bigger and catch up much faster to those who are more mature in the industry. And when it does that, on a net basis, will this technology create more opportunities, more jobs in the ecosystem itself and the players and the partners that support the ecosystem, from the customer service, from logistics, from data centers and whatnot. I think as a whole, I believe it's going to have a very positive impact. And of course, for us, as one of the pioneer and leading player in this market, we also have to make sure that we stay ahead of this game. So we would invest more. I assume a lot of the other big tech companies would invest more to make sure they don't fall behind in this kind of very exciting yet more challenging competitive environment in the future.
One of the big themes of e-commerce last year was government regulation, with Indonesia restricting online shopping on social media platforms. Are there still any policy risks you're watching out for? Are you expecting any uncertainty from the leadership transition in October? And as Pak Padnu mentioned earlier, do you have a KPI for the next government?
Yeah, so I mean, definitely for us, the government with these regulations are looking after the best interests of the people and the public and the economy. And as one of the key players, we absolutely support and comply to the government regulations. If there are areas of opportunities that we can further contribute with our experience in other countries, with our experience in, actually globally, because we're a part of the Alibaba group, so we have different experiences in different countries that we can provide information, provide some of the use cases, some of the test cases, some of the different policies that we believe particularly help to fuel the economy. Absolutely would like to play that role. I think the industry is still very young, and I believe that the rules and the regulations and the government's check and balances in this industry will continue to go on. And I think it's absolutely also necessary. That's one of the key things that will help and to foster the vibrancy of the industry. So at this young stage, the more guidance and from the government, I think is something that we welcome. And if there's a role that we can play, we'd love to play a role as well.
Mm-hmm. As we near the end of the panel, I wanted to look a bit more long term. Lazada aims to reach an annual GMV of $100 billion by 2030. That would mean growing by around 4 to 5 times. How do you plan on getting there, and any levers in particular that you're thinking of pushing?
Yes, so right now, if you ask me, like, okay, what are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that, and how much they contribute to get there, it's hard for me to answer. Yeah. It's a still very dynamic industry at large, and also South Asia is still on a very fast-growing trend. I think there's a few things. I talked about diversification and kind of our views on this. But the second thing is, we believe that right now, one of the key things we have to do is to build a fan base. What is a fan base? It's the group of people who would love your services and your solutions and would be very sad if you close down. I think that's a fan base. And we want to continue to build that fan base. I don't think, because one company sells more phones than the other company, is that company a great company and the other company is not? If one brand sells more shoes than the other companies, does that make them a better company? I don't think it's like that. I think the whole notion of a great organization is you play the leadership role and you continue to perfect and improve your services and offerings that you build that fan base. So we're going to focus on doing that. As I mentioned, supply chain is one of the key areas that we're investing, but this is not the only areas that we're investing. Also investment in AI and continue to do the research and development, continue to map out and invest in the ecosystem players, like areas like logistics, infrastructures, payments. These are also absolutely critical. And as we do that, and as industry becomes vibrant, as we continue to take our share of this industry, I think that's best way for us to achieve our long-term goal.
You mentioned investments in AI, supply chain, and other things. How much more capital injection do you think Lazada will need from Alibaba to achieve those goals?
So actually, right now, we are looking at various of different opportunities. And definitely, our goal is to continue to invest because we believe the industry itself is still in an early stage. In a grand scheme of things where we don't know what the end is, we still believe it's a young industry. It's an early stage. But it's very dynamic and it's evolving, that's for sure. Whenever we see a great opportunity, we're not hesitant to make the investment. Lazada turned profitable, but can we invest everything we wanted to invest purely using the profits that we create is not at this moment possible. We just turned profitable. However, as a large organization, as part of Alibaba, Alibaba definitely as a whole have resources. And we do believe that South Asia is a very exciting place and there's a lot more growth to come. So whenever opportunity presents, we're definitely not shy away from making the investments. And I think this is something that, with also the government in transition, expect a lot more stability. That stability creates a lot more favorable environment for investors and also companies to make long-term bets and investments.
So we have Lazada turning profitable. You see the industry turning net profitable. Are we just at the start of a boom, the next boom for the sector?
I would say we're almost there, but not fully there.
Okay.
I truly think that there are a few things that are underlying catalysts for this. Definitely the consumer awareness, the consumer confidence. I think that is there. That has been achieved, right? The industry net profitability and attracting the capital, from institutional investors is definitely required, and we're not there yet, but I believe we'll get there soon enough. The infrastructure and the barriers to entry to bring it down, it will be quite disrupted moving forward. Some of the key core infrastructures, for example, payment infrastructures, logistics infrastructure, have been improved phenomenally. I think the AI will be the next big thing. So when the financial situation and the availability of the capital is more abundant, when the infrastructure and the cost of starting the business is going down, which already have done in few areas of the key enabling part, then with the AI taking to the next level, bringing down the, increasing the competitiveness and a technology advanced front, I think that would be the main trigger. I don't know what will be the exact timing, but I just feel that a lot of these things are coming together nicely and more closer. We're not there yet, but I'm very confident that it will come, and maybe sooner than we all believe.
Hopefully, big things coming up for Indonesia and for Lazada in Indonesia. James, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.